So Stanford's got a few more games under their belt than you guys do at this point. So let me just ask you if you think, does that gives you more information on them, but a little bit less time for you guys to see what you've got. What do you think about the difference in between those games played right now in an early November matchup?
Yeah, I think the more games you get in, the better prepared you are. Obviously, the schedule wasn't set up for us to play that many games, but Stanford, whether you play them in game, 4 or game 30, they're going to be extremely prepared. They'll have a game plan that puts them in the best possible position to win. And I mean, you basically have to be ready. I think our players are up for the challenge. I think it's pretty cool to be here in California, to play against Stanford, and to just enjoy a different coast.
Quick follow-up, Dawn, would be she's played a lot of players so far. You've played a lot of players so far. I know it's November, so how tight do you expect those rotations to get, or do you want to get your young players some game minutes in a game like this in November?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to continue to play as many players as we are playing, and the more experience they get, some of the younger players will only increase our depth. I think our depth is not bad, but some of our younger players, they really need some game experience because, practice does, somewhat, but when the lights come on, it really changes your perspective. And some of them just need to get some more games under their belt in order for them to play like it's practice.
Gabriella, and then we'll go to Jeremiah.
Going off that a little bit, can you just talk generally about what it's like playing such difficult matchups early in the season and the value that adds to your team?
I mean, it's you're measuring yourself. You're measuring what your habits are like right now, and then it'll unveil what you need to work on in the future. These games allow you to see where you are, and also just to bank. If in the NCAA tournament you have to play up against a team like Stanford, you have some familiarity. Whether you win or lose, you have some familiarity, and it just helps preparation later on down the line.
Jeremiah, and then Jackie.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. Obviously, you guys have the 6'7" Camila Cardoso coming off the bench for you guys, and then they have 6'7" Lauren Betts coming off the bench for them. Just can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the value in having, I guess, a player of that size, I guess, kind of playing a reserve role, being able to kind of come in with the second unit and kind of make an impact?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of people around the country have 6'7" and 6'7" as a reserve. More like if they got 6'7", it's probably in the starting role. So I think it's great. I think Camila progression has been moving in the right direction. I think Lauren Betts has an incredible future, and I think Tar's bringing her along as she progresses. But to have both of those players of that caliber and talent coming off the bench says that you got a pretty good starting five if they have to come off the bench.
Jackie, and then Mike.
Hey, Dawn. Good to see you. I've actually got a couple of questions about Betnijah Laney winning the award in your name, if that's all right. So I want to know if you could explain to me sort of what your involvement in the award is, besides it being named after you, and what you know about the panel that determined that Betnijah would be this year's winner.
I mean, I just know that I get a vote, and then a couple of other people, they get votes. It wasn't a homer job at all. So I don't control that. I don't even think I'm the deciding person that sways it either way. I look at the bios of the candidates, and I just investigate a little bit, to figure out who's the best person, in my opinion, that represent what the award represents. And we go from there. Just fortunately for me and Benaja, us coming from the Philly area, when you're able to bestow such an award on someone that you know, that you've watched grow up, that you've recruited, it means our women's basketball world is in a really good place, and it's long lasting.
I really appreciate that. And just to follow up, Benaja was also injured for almost the entire 2022 season. And so I'm curious what you think it says about her, since she won this award during a year that was really challenging and one where she was sort of rehabbing constantly.
Well, I just think sometimes when the game is taken away from you from an injury standpoint, there's a huge void that you got to fill, because it's in your heart, it's in your blood, it's in what you want to do every day. And Benaja in turn flipped it and filled that void with helping other people. And, you know, it does your heart good when you're able to live out your passion physically on the court. You replace it with something, and, you know, equally, you know, she's passionate about, and that's young people.
Mike, and then Cheryl.
What's going on, Dawn? So you guys obviously aren't strangers to being able to have tough games, especially over the last couple of years. And I know it's something that you gave a lot of credit to last year's national championship. But when you, outside of the competition, outside of the atmosphere, especially for some of these younger players, what have you learned over the last couple of years? Some things that maybe on the outside we don't see that has helped your team to be able to get better as the season goes on, especially for those younger players that aren't used to big matchups like this in their career?
Probably the main thing is what we learn and what you don't see is how we prep. Like I know Talasia and Ashlyn, they have, and even to some certain extent, Kiara. But I think Kiara's been around the game long enough that she can pick up after game one and how we prep. She could pick up some of the things because she's created collegiate habits. Whereas when you're coming straight from high school, it's probably as challenging as their toughest class, you know, that they're taking this semester, because it's not your routine as a high school player to prepare like we prepare. And then whether you get the results as a young player, whether it's through playing time or just when you play, that you don't perform at a high level, it helps them understand what it takes to perform and play and prep at a high level. And we're hoping we're formulating great, just, we call them pro habits. Like young people nowadays, they got earrings everywhere, they got piercings, and it becomes part of their pregame routine. And it takes time. Like, we don't have time for, 13 players to, take their nose rings out or their earrings out. I mean, I just try to tell them, just create pro habits. That's not one of them. We shouldn't have to wait for 1, 2, 3, 4 players to take, to take your jury off for you to get ready. And I don't want to, I'm not over our pregame shooting. Coach Boyer is. So I'm sure, hearing her complain wasn't even enough for them to do it. So until I just had to step in, especially on the road. We don't want to be at the gym 2 hours before we play, because the players who prep well enough, they should already have their routine. We shouldn't change, our prep time for someone else to get themselves ready. And I'm not just saying that's for the young players. Some of our older players have these type of habits as well. So hopefully I answered your question. It was kind of long-winded, but habits.
Cheryl, and then Alex.
Hi, Coach. Good to see you out here in California. I had a question about, it's been I guess, 12 years since South Carolina played at Stanford. I believe you were in your third year. What is the importance for you, especially given the history you have with Tara and the mutual respect you all have for each other, for you to come out here and have this game and possibly start a series? And also how far South Carolina has come since then. I mean, that was 12 years ago in a blowout, but of course you've won national championships since then.
That's what I remember most. It was it was a blowout. And then, you know, Tara's so sweet. She thought after her team blew us out that it would be good for me to come into her locker room and speak to her team. Like really, Tara. And then Freddie Reddy, our director of player development, he just reminded me yesterday at our practice, you know, that there's a weight room that's connected to their practice facility that you can see from Maples. And that's the same. He was like, Coach, you remember that that weight room? That's the weight room that after they blew us out, they went right into that weight room and worked out. Like it was one of their practices. And it was actually like one of their practices because we just weren't there. But to play Tara is to play who I think Tara is a savant when it comes to basketball and understanding how to play and disciplining her team to how to play. So it's always, you know, it's a win-win situation for our team, but it's also for me to just watch her, to prep for her, to try to get into, you know, her brain as to what she's going to do, how she's going to outfox our game plan. When you play Tara, when you play a team that's led by her, you know you're getting the very best. So anytime that you can get one game, like if you can win one game, you've done something pretty special. But I hope our performance is a lot better than 12 years ago.
A quick follow-up. Both Aaliyah and Haley Jones at Stanford have both talked about their, you know, close friendship. You know, they have their fierce competitors on the court, but they're very close friends. Does that remind you in any way of any relationship you had with the fierce competitor during your career? And what is that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm just gonna give you my honest opinion. Like I told Aaliyah this back in 2021. I'm like, I said, you and your friends, because she's close with Haley and she's close with Fran. I said, you guys are keying and keying. You know, they're winning championships and you're left crying. You know, at some point, you're going to have to key. You have to return the favor. And she probably didn't know what I meant. You know, she did know what I meant, you know, but she probably didn't like it. I reminded her of that yesterday as we were walking in the gym as well. You know, but I've had great relationships with competitors, Lisa Leslie, Nikki McCrae, and I really didn't talk to them before a game. I talked to them after the game, whether we won or lost. It wasn't always a pleasant when we lost because I don't like losing. I think the younger generation, they have a short memory. They can get on with things quite quickly. For me, it takes a little bit of time for me to, you know, engage in like normal conversation after loss.
Coach, did you want to touch on the second part of Cheryl's first question, is how your program has changed from that first trip to Stanford to now?
I mean, there's a big change. I mean, obviously, but I would say it is those losses 12 years ago in Maples that helped build who we are today. Because it's the losses that you learn the most from. You could take, you know, the Stanford losses, you could take the UConn losses, you could take the Tennessee losses. When you lose from traditionally rich programs like those programs that pretty much ran women's basketball, you try to emulate that. You try to take a little bit of what you see that they're great at, and you try to create that with your own program. So I thank them. Like, I didn't like it. You're not going to ever make me like a 30-point loss, but certainly if you keep giving us a try, we're gonna move the chains and hopefully win some basketball games. And we've done that over the past couple of years.
Great, Alex, and then we'll close it with Gabriella.
Hey, Dawn, Alex Simon from Bay Area News Group. Thanks for talking again. I saw that you were at the Warriors game last night, and I know that you got a couple of events that you're planning, kind of like what Tara did with you back when you were last here. Just what does it mean to kind of be able to advocate for women's basketball in this way when making a trip like this and kind of build up the hype to this type of big game?
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. Like, anytime you get an opportunity to be in the presence of, a franchise that's been great, as the Golden State Warriors, we got our players got a chance to be in the building to see, how much the fans here appreciate basketball. Like, they really do. And this area really appreciates basketball. And I mean, they got a lot to appreciate because they got four championships in the past couple of years. I mean, it's great. Tara last year, when they came to us, we were still in pandemic, the pandemic. And I asked her to come speak to some of our most loyal fans. She double masked, came out, parted some jokes and some knowledge and left our fams in a great place. And, hopefully I can return the favor and talking to some of their most loyal fans after the game tomorrow.
And just a quick follow-up. I know that Chelsea Gray was there last night. She's a Bay Area kid. There's quite a few Bay Area kids in the W. You'll have to deal with a couple of them tomorrow. Just, can you speak to maybe the talented women's basketball players from the top levels to even the high school level that this area and this region produces?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak on it from afar because they don't seem to make the trip southeast to the southern states, but certainly not from recruiting the high schoolers on up to the WNBA champion and Chelsea Gray. Just incredible talent, like incredible talent that you have people from all over the country coming here to recruit that talent, and then they grow into being Olympians. They grow up to being WNBA champions, and they grow up to be NCAA champions, probably after having a stellar a high school championship team. So, this area is packed with talent, and the coaches over on this side of the world are able to just stay here, much like what we do in South Carolina. There aren't very many players from South Carolina is going to make this trip here. So I think it's an even trade knowing that we both get a chance to keep our locals at home.
Thank you. And last question to Gabriella.
Thank you. Can you just speak generally about, in the women's basketball space, what a game like this, what a marquee matchup like this means to be playing just in November? Obviously there's been so much hype around it across the country. So what does this mean kind of to the women's basketball space?
Well, I would say this, we've been doing it for a long time. Like, this is like par for the course. I think television now is starting to pick up on it. To broadcast it because we've been doing this for quite some time. So are we excited that, we're playing on ABC tomorrow up against football, pro football, probably collegiate, men's collegiate basketball, NFL. Obviously there's a space for it, or else, it would not be televised, or it wouldn't be televised nationally. So, I mean, it's great for the game. I'm just happy that the media that broadcasts our games are catching up to what we've already been doing.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.